In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to draw bushes like this in Procreate, but you can use this method in any other drawing app. If you want to use similar colors like mine, you can download the color palette, it is linked in the description of this video. You can also get my free brushes and paper textures. And if you would like to support me and learn how to draw full illustrations like this in Procreate, I add a new step-by-step drawing tutorial to my Patreon every week. On my Patreon, I will teach you how to draw in different styles and techniques, so you will never be bored. I would really appreciate your help, because YouTube is not paying so much. This is how much I made last month, so as you can see, it's really not a lot. Okay, so now with all of that being said, grab your drawing tools, relax, and let's start. I will make a new canvas, A4 canvas from Procreate, because I like to use this size. And we can start with drawing here the grass, the land. So for this, just pick any kind of lighter green color. I'll have something like this. And let's pick a brush. I'll just use here my Just Draw brush. If you're interested in this brush or any other brushes that I'll use here, they will be linked in the description of this video. So I'll make your brush size 11. And just draw here kind of like a flat, wiggly shape. We can color this inside. And now on top of this, we can start drawing first layer of the bushes. I'll start here with like the middle ones. So let's pick here some green color. And we can just draw some shapes like this to represent the bush. Okay, let's color this inside. Now let's make a new layer to draw the bush next to this. Let's take different color, just a slightly bit different color. And you can draw a similar shape over here. Okay, let's color this inside. If you want, you can also add here some kind of small spikes on this. So just on the edges, let's add something like this. And if you want to use some more like a complicated shapes, I have a brush set for making landscapes. And over here, you can use any of these brushes like that. So this way you can create here shapes like this quickly and easily. Or maybe something like this. There are many options over here you can choose from. I'll go back to my Just Draw brush. So now I have here the bushes that are in the middle. Now let's make a new layer and we can draw the bushes that will be in front. So for this you should pick colors that will be more saturated, maybe a little bit darker. I'll take maybe this color. And we can draw now some bush shape over here like this. This is up to you what kind of shape you will draw. Let's color this inside. And now let's make one more layer. Maybe this one I'll put here behind the one that I just drew. Let's pick the color. I'll take now this color. We can draw a little bit different shape. Maybe more like that. Let's color this inside. And now one more layer. Maybe let's take something more brown now. And we can draw here now one more bush. So these are the bushes that will be in the foreground over here. I'm still just going back to this one. And maybe I'll add here just some small spikes on it to make it a bit more interesting too. Okay. And now we can add some bushes that will be in the back. So for this, let's make a new layer. We can put it all the way here behind the first bush we drew. And here pick some color that is a little bit less saturated and lighter. I'll take this color. And maybe let's draw here like a big shape like this. Make sure that you close this shape. Let me see if I closed it, I'm not sure. Okay, I did. If you can't close it, maybe you can just turn off all those layers here. So this way you can see your shape clearly. And the further away the bushes are, the less details we are going to add to them. So now let's start adding here some colors. We are going to make them lighter at the bottom and darker on top. So there are two ways we can do it. We can just make a new layer on top of this one, set it here as clipping mask. And now we can change blending mode of this to add. To start adding here lighter color, we can just use the same color that we have now. Let's pick a brush with a texture. And here again, I have a brush set with textures if you want to check it out. I'm going to leave it in the description of this video. And right now I have promotion in all of my stores. It's 20% off. Just use the code that is in the description. So I will use here this chalky shading. But if you want, I have also free texture brushes here in my siakulaart special brushes. Like these ones. Or maybe the noise brushes. I'm going to use this later. So this is up to you what kind of brush you want to use. I'll go here for this one. I'll make the brush size 20. And we can just brighten up here the bottom part of this bush, like that. This will make the colors that are in front of it pop. So the bushes in front of it will pop. Will be more visible. Okay, so just like that. We're making it lighter. Now you can adjust it. If you think you did it too light, we can just go over here and turn down the opacity. And now we're going to make the top a little bit darker. So to do that, we can make a new layer on top of this one. We can set it here as clipping mask. So tap here and pick clipping mask. And now we can change the blending mode of this to multiply. So now with the same color, we can make this darker. So let's add it here now to the top part of this bush. So that's one way. Now I'll show you the second way. So I'm going here now to this first bush that I drew. It's this one. We can set it here as alpha lock. We can tap on it and pick here alpha lock. So this means that now we can draw only in this shape. We can pick this color. You can just tap on the screen and hold it to get this color. And we can just manually take here a brighter color, like that. And we can make it a little bit warmer too. So move this hue slider here towards warm colors, like that. Okay. I'm going to change here the brush. I will stay here in my siakulaart textures and I'll take here this wall shading brush. I'll just make here this brighter over here. Just over here, you will have to be very careful because you can't turn down the opacity. So whatever you draw here, this is how this will look. But you can still adjust it by grabbing here now the base color and just drawing over it to turn it down this way. Okay, so like that. And now we can make the top edges darker. So we can take the base color, I already have it, and we can make it darker. Take the slider to the bottom right and towards cooler tones. So here to the right, like that. And just add it here to the top edges, like that. And now we can go back here to this base color and make it blend here nicer, like that. This transition between the colors. So you can use those two methods to add lighter color at the bottom and darker on top. I'll do it now quickly. Okay, so we have something like this. This already looks nice, but we can add here now some details. We're going to add here some kind of branches visible. So for this, we can make a new layer. on top of each bush, set it here now as clipping mask, and we can change the blending mode of this to overlay. We can take here now some kind of darker color, like dark blue, dark purple. I'll go back here to my Just Draw brush, but you can also maybe use here some kind of brush with a more like a pencil texture. And just draw now here some branches that might be visible here in this bush. Like that. It doesn't have to be anything precise. And you can now adjust the opacity of this. If you think this is too strong, you can turn it down. So we can do it now to all of those bushes. You can create a new layer for each of the bush, set it as clipping mask and overlay. Or if you want, you can just have one main layer on top of everything and just be careful where you place your lines. But then you can't really adjust the opacity for just one bush. If you want, you can also use now lighter color for this, something like very bright yellow, and add here like lighter branches in here for some kind of contrast and to make it a bit more interesting this way. And then of course I will turn down the opacity of this. This is too strong. So let's do it to all of those layers. Okay, so when this is done, we can start adding here some smaller details like some kind of leaves on top of the bushes, maybe some flowers. We can make a new layer on top of everything. We can now just hand pick here the color and make it either a little bit lighter or darker. I'll make this one lighter and towards the warm color. Okay. So now we can just draw here some kind of small little leaves that might be visible here just like that. Doesn't have to be anything precise. You can also now take darker color and add it like that. Okay, so it looks like this. You don't have to add it to every bush that is in front, of course. We can add it just to a few. For some, maybe you can make those elements bigger. And for some, you can make them smaller. Maybe I'll still add to this one. Okay, so like that. Now we can add here some kind of flowers. We can do it on a new layer. And you can pick any color that you like. I will add here some red flowers and maybe blue. And you don't have to be precise drawing them, of course. You can just draw some small little blobs like this, here and there. Make this more interesting this way. And if you want, I have also brushes for the flowers in my brush set. Like this, you can use those stamps here to make it easier and faster. Okay. Now I'll use the blue color. Maybe I'll add now this kind of flower over here. And this one is in different colors too when you stamp it. And now maybe I'll still add something yellow over here to this one. So when you're happy with this, we can move on and add here some kind of extra elements between the bushes. So you can find some space between the bushes. Let's say over here, for example, make a new layer, pick some kind of other color, maybe something more green like this. And now we can just draw here some kind of plant. If you want, you can use my brush stamps, like this one, for example, and just plant it over here like that, just so we have here some more interesting elements. Or of course, you can hand draw them too. Now maybe some kind of more like a brownish color. Let's make a new layer now, maybe over here. We can now draw here some kind of plant like this. And maybe one more somewhere over here, like a different one. Maybe something more like this. And now here's a little trick. If you want to make some of those colors pop more, you can go to the adjustments, take hue, saturation, brightness. Now over here, tap on this triangle and pick pencil. And you can use your brush, make it 100%. And for example, I would like those to be in a different color. Maybe not pink, but something else. You can change the hue now over here. And saturation and brightness. Okay, so like that. I will do the same now here to those plants. So I'll go back to this layer. Take here saturation brightness, tap here to pick the pencil. And maybe I'll make this one slightly different. And also this one on this side, like that. I'll make them pop more like this. Okay, so it looks like that. And now we can add here something to the ground, to the grass in front. So for this, we can make a new layer on top of everything. We can pick this color over here. And we can start with just drawing here just some smaller strands, grass strands, to cover here those bushes in front. So this will look better this way. And now we can adjust the color, make it a bit darker. And add just some smaller grass strands, just in general like this, all over this. We can also make now lighter color. And add it over here too. Okay, so it's like that. So this looks pretty nice already. But we can add now some shadows and light still to this. So let's start here with shadows. We can make a new layer on top of everything. We can set it here as multiply. And we can take here some kind of light, some light blue or purple color, maybe something like this. And let's take here a brush with a texture. For this, I will just use the small noise brush from my Siakulaart special brushes. And we can now just add this shadow over here at the bottom part of those bushes. So we are going to select them first. Let's find here this bush. So it's this one. Okay, we can select it. Make sure the color fill is off. And now we can go to our multiply layer for the shadows. And just draw with this over here like that. Make this a little bit darker here. Okay, I'll put this in a moment behind the grass strands over here. Now we can select here this bush, tap here, pick select. Go back to the multiply layer. Make this a little bit darker here, like that. Also, you can make here the sides of this darker, one side, maybe right side, just a little bit. I'll go back to this one here again, select it, go now here, make this darker on the right side. And now this one. And just make this darker here. Okay, and here, for example, I have to take the eraser and erase the shadow from this bush right now. So I take the eraser, I'll tap on it. I can set it here to monoline brush from calligraphy and just erase this so it's not here on this bush. Okay. Okay. Now and move it over here like that. You can now still manually fix this a little bit like that. And now you can just gently add this shadow here all over to the right side. And if you have to, you can go back with the eraser and erase where it should not be visible. Okay, and we can add the light now here too. So we can make a new layer. Now we can pick here either add or overlay. I'll pick here add. Pick something very bright and yellow, like this color. If you want, you can select now the shape that you want to color. I'll select this one. Go back to the new layer for the lights. And brighten up here the left side of this. Like that. Okay. Of course, if you want, you can do the shadow and light one by one to each layer of the bushes, but this is like a fast way that saves you layers. Here, for example, maybe I would like to brighten up just the edges of this bush, so I'm going to select it. And now I can just draw here on these edges, just like that. Okay. And now you can turn down the opacity of this. We can add now a little bit of light and shadow also here to this grass part. Like that. Now on the shadows layer, I'll draw some shadow here. And now I'll just make a new layer on top of this little grass strands over here. Set it as clipping mask. Change this to add. And I will just brighten up here a little bit a few of those grass strands. So they will look more integrated over here. Okay, and turn down the opacity. Okay, so this is it. This is how easily you can draw some bushes like that. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and I hope you can share your drawing with me on Instagram. I would love to see it. And if you'd like to get more step-by-step full drawing tutorials, make sure to check out my Patreon. I add their new video every week. Don't forget to check out my brushes and use the discount code. Everything is linked in the description of this video. Thank you so much for watching and see you in my next video. Bye!